Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and as always, I am joined by the dynamic Joe Fordyce, our Flyers pre and post game live producer. Joe, with one game left in the season, I think the NHL draft lottery race is pretty compelling and interesting for a lot of fans, and it could change with the regular season finale. If the Flyers lose in regulation, they will have the fourth best odds. But if they win in regulation, they'll have the seventh best odds. So things can change. I think it has a lot of interest with fans. How interested are you in the lottery race in the ping pong balls?
Well, it's part of my job to be interested in it, so I'm following it pretty closely. It's a weird thing though because the you're watching it. It's intriguing because the Flyers and Buffalo are facing each other in that game, and so it swings it in a huge direction of three spots, as you mentioned. Um, but that doesn't make it entertaining, if you know what I'm saying. It's like you're watching to see who can be worse, like who's bad and who's worse. It's not really that's not really like nobody wants that to be the scenario to finish the final game. But that's what we're left with here. Um, and what I would say is the fact that it's against Buffalo is also a reminder that just because you stockpile a bunch of number one picks and high picks does not mean your team's going to get better, because you look at the other side. Now, Rasmus Dahlin has kind of come into his own. Owen Powers had some struggles. I mean, the Buffalo is loaded with top picks, and they had top picks that they've traded off. So they've, they're stuck kind of in the mud, and they have been for the better part of 2 decades. So it is that kind of reminder where, just because you get those picks doesn't mean things are getting better. Yeah, there's other personnel decisions that have to be made. But nonetheless, it is intriguing because there is a pretty big difference between 4 and 7. It might not seem it, but I mean, if you're going in with the fourth best odds, I think you're kind of hanging on the edge of your seat, like maybe you could get the number 1 pick. If you're going in with the 7th, it almost is like, all right, let me know what the order is after they pick it. So I do think there's a big swing there based on this game on Thursday.
I'm with you, Joe. I'm more interested in maybe seeing if Tyson Foerster could continue his hot streak, or maybe if Matvei Mishkov could finish with 25 goals or solidify his Calder Trophy case. Like, that's stuff that interests me more, but I understand it. The lottery is very much important, and it's where the Flyers are, and we have to follow it. If they fall from 4 to 7, I think their percentage points go down about 3 for the first pick. Really, they're probably going to finish wherever they are, either that or the pick behind them, wherever they finish with their lottery odds. But it certainly is intriguing if you can think and have a shot at climbing as high as possible. We all know how.
The thing I would say though is like we've already seen the team on the ice doesn't care about the lottery odds.
No.
These guys are out there. I mean, Nick Seeler has taken the blocks in the last 2 games, last night and the one before, the game before. I mean, look at those play. I mean, he's not thinking about 7th best odds, 4th best odds. These young guys aren't thinking about that. Michkov's trying to score. Foerster, you mentioned, clearly on a hot streak. They're not thinking about this stuff. So regardless of what we say, I don't think that's going to affect what goes on the ice tomorrow night. I can only speak for the Flyers. I can't say that about Buffalo, but I would think the guys on the ice for Buffalo. Of course, there's some guys like Dahlin, as I mentioned, that their jobs are solidified. But I mean, any team that's at this point in the standings, most of their lineup, or maybe half of their lineup, I would say at least, is probably not certain of their standing with the organization or in the league next season. Because if they were, then the team wouldn't be in this situation. So I don't think I would doubt there's guys on Buffalo that are going out there tomorrow with the mindset of we really need to lose this head-to-head game with the Flyers so we can finish with the better odds. So the game will be played on the ice, and I feel like all that draft stuff will be a lot of like fodder for uh, talk afterwards, which we will do.
Indeed, we will definitely do that here. And Joe, the one thing I don't quite understand is when fans get all worked up over the lineup and thinking the Flyers aren't trying hard enough to lose. It's not like the Flyers are really going out there and fielding this all-star lineup. I mean,
Yeah, they don't have an all-star lineup to field.
and they can't do much else. I mean, they're out of call-ups. They don't have any extras right now. And the only thing they can really do is maybe start Kolosov a little more in net and like maybe, I don't know, start in more inexperienced goalie in net. But Danny Briere can't do much more. Brad Shaw is trying to win because he's trying to win a job. So, like, to me, they have to field the lineup that they're fielding. The guys are going to try, as you mentioned. Brad Shaw is going to coach to win, or at least try to do the best he can. And Danny Briere is not going to do anything drastic. He really can't unless someone gets hurt to do anything with the roster. So you just kind of need to let the chips fall where they fall and see where it goes. That's basically
Yeah, I think the way this is viewed is skewed because the people that go crazy about that stuff, and look, I get texts every game from people, why don't they just lose? That kind of stuff from some friends that are big Flyers fans. Here's the issue. That kind of view, it's almost like you have a group of, say, I don't know, so what it would be, your full lineup would be a 8 defensemen or 6 defensemen and 12 forwards. So we're talking about 18 players. Those kinds of views about why don't they just lose? It's almost like people assume they have 17 players that are going to be in the lineup next year, and then the guy coming from this pick in the first round is going to be the guy that puts them in the Stanley Cup final. That is not happening. But those kind of views about why don't they just, you're assuming that the guys that are playing, that the 18 are on the ice tomorrow night are thinking about that draft pick. And when you really look at it, how many guys that the Flyers are putting on the ice tomorrow night's game, last night's game, the game before that, how many of those guys can say, we are back next year and we have a solid role in this team? It's Konechny, Couturier, Cates, maybe Foerster. I mean, how much further? I mean, even when you look at the defensemen, I don't think we know where Drysdale stands with this team. I don't think we definitely don't know where York stands just based on the contract situation. Sanheim, yeah, is another one, but it's less than half of the lineup that goes on the ice that knows where they stand going forward. So it's a tough spot. Like you said, it's not like the Flyers have this stock of like an NBA team. Now, NBA is different because 5 guys starting lineup, and generally most teams only play, if you're trying to win a game, only play 2 or 3 other guys off the bench. But you can go ahead and play all backups, as we've seen the Sixers, we saw the Sixers do.
mm-hmm.
There's not as much flexibility with the lineup in hockey, and because you need more players. And I don't know what, like you said, outside of starting a goaltender or pulling the goalie and not playing one, what are you supposed to do?
No, exactly. And I mean, they're playing a college free agent signing recently in Carson Dorrit, which I like. They're giving the kid a shot, and worried more.
I mean, they could play Devin Kaplan tomorrow, but
Exactly.
you're assuming that Devin Kaplan is going to be worse than what they're giving than the guy's spot he has taken. That's not an assumption. The guy just played in the national championship. He had a great college career at one of the best American hockey institutions that there is in BU. So we're assuming the guy, and you put that guy in the lineup, that's the most motivated player you can find out of anybody, is a guy like that playing his first NHL game. As we saw a couple of years ago with Brink. I mean, it's tough to and I hate this term. It's like a pet peeve. It's tough to tank in hockey because you have to play too many guys. Now, and people will point at the Sharks, and I can't tell you that I'm intricately involved in what the Sharks have, but I do know that I mean, we saw when the Flyers played them, Celebrini's playing, Will Smith is playing. Those two guys are definitely going to be part of the core.
Mhm.
The thing the Sharks don't have is they don't have veterans on their team
Mhm.
for the most part, at least not ones that are as effective as the ones the Flyers have. So it's an odd conversation to
Yeah.
just say, why don't they just lose? Because again, it assumes the guys on the ice are thinking, you know what? This draft is the last piece we need to get to the Stanley Cup final. And that's not where this team is, obviously.
No, and players on the ice will never think that. And I would have a problem if they did and if they weren't trying. Like, I think it's good that the Flyers have players that are trying in these games. Like, they want to be a part of the future. Some of them could be. Uh, I would have a problem and concerns with the culture if guys are going out there and didn't care about the games because they didn't matter in the standings. And I don't think we've seen that. And that's, I think, a positive. You want the Flyers to still care about their culture right now and building something for the offseason. And then let the front office and the fans that really enjoy the lottery, let them focus on that. But
I mean, you may have Danny Briere and Jonesy may be up there saying, oh, it'd be nice to lose. But you can't force a team to lose.
no, no. And
And
I would bet that Danny and Keith are way more focused on the culture and guys trying than the opposite.
yeah, and I mean, just look at the last two games. I mentioned Sealer, huge block the other night, and he couldn't get off the ice, and he's still standing there in front of shots when he could barely stay on his skates. Last night, same deal. Ryan Paling takes one off the inside of the knee last night. He goes down, doesn't miss a shift. These guys they're out there, and Ryan Paling's money is secured for next season.
Mhm.
He knows where he's going to be. Same with Sealer.
Mhm.
I mean, they know where they're going to be.
Right.
So to tell those guys who know what their roles are going forward, not to just basically lay down,
Yeah.
you know, I it's impossible.
Yeah, tough to do. I think it's really much one of those situations where when the Flyers lose, if you're a fan, you're thinking, well, hey, they didn't hurt their lottery chances and the odds might be a little more in the Flyers' favor. When they win, you look at the positives and you say, hey, Forster looks great, or Mishkov had a nice game, or hey, we know what we have in this player or that player. I think that's where it really stands for a lot of fans. I think there's sections of fans that really are diehards for them to lose. And there's probably some sections of fans that love when they win and are always going to like when they win. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Joe, there's still a lot of to watch right now. And Tyson Foerster has been one guy that I think has been very fun to watch. I think he's provided promise for the future. He's gone on a great goal scoring streak. It's been a little quiet over the past couple games, but another season of 20 or more goals. He had 20 last season as a rookie. He's topped that this season. Is he one of maybe more of the one of the more promising players we've seen play this season for the Flyers in regards to their future?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about the guys that would have been the Flyers announced their awards last night that would have been up for most improved. And, Brink, Cates, Forrester were the three guys that came to, not in that order. I'm just saying they were the names of the guys that I thought of. And I feel like Forrester has kind of been one of these players, and I've referred to it in talking with our pregame crew the past. They've kind of been unlocked, maybe for a better term, since John Tortorella's departure. And we've started to see that shot at Forrester that we've heard about for a number of years be used more frequently. And that's where the goals come from. He's there to score goals. And listen, every NHL team, it's okay to just have some guys that score goals and that create offense, and that maybe they're not back there eating pucks all night because look, I mean, you can argue about the right way to play the game, but the right way to play the game, you need For the guys that are there to block shots, they need the guys that are there to score to do their job in front of them so that everybody's job kind of falls in line. And that's how you get a good team. And Forster certainly appears like he's going to be one of the key goal scorers for this team moving forward. I mean, to me, obviously next year, but when you get to a point where you want to contend, I certainly see Forster with his first 2 seasons. By the time they get to the point where they would contend, him being a top 6 winger for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's 30 goal upside there, no doubt. Even next season, I think the Flyers would love if he pushed for 30 goals. I think what the Flyers are really excited about is he's done this within the whole 200-foot perspective. He's been out there on penalty kill. He can play when they have a lead. He can play when they're down. I think they've really loved the growth that he's shown in the full length of the rink, and that's a real positive. I think the biggest challenge will be, can he continue to score while still focused on those details? Sometimes the guys, of course, need to maybe focus a little more on offense and not as much on like being perfect defensively. But I think he can do it. And Joe, one thing I think I really loved is you can tell he's adjusted his shot. He's getting his shot off quicker by not trying to wind up and make sure it's a perfect shot. When he came up, the shot was the biggest strength, but of course he was doing it at junior hockey level where there's time and space and you can really kind of dust the puck off and rip it. Right now, I've seen in practice and I've seen in games where he's really focused on getting the shot off quicker, and it tells me he's adjusting to the NHL level and he's trying to get better at this level so he can be successful up here, which is huge. You have to adjust. You can't just focus on what you've done great at the lower levels, and you can tell he's a kid that wants to get better and adjust at this level.
Yeah, and third period last night, I was standing down ringside, and just like you said there, he gets the puck on the wing, and it's off his stick, and he shot it right along the ice.
Yeah.
You never saw him shoot the puck along the ice when he first came up. It was always looking top shelf, middle of the net. He never put it along the ice where not only could it go in, but you could have somebody else do something with it, tip it, things like that. So again, I totally agree, and I saw it last night right in front of me. And I thought, oh, that's a different look. Him putting it along the ice, and probably took the goalie a little bit by surprise, because when that guy gets the puck, you're not expecting the shot to be along the ice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, look, and last night they ran into a goaltender that is just. That team's fighting for their lives, and that goaltender is providing big time play for them right now. And who knows, they may end up getting a playoff spot for it. But yeah, I did notice that last night with Forster, and that's definitely a good sign. And again, back to your previous point about the growth he's shown. The last 2 years, he's reached the 20 goal plateau. And he's not a guy that was really getting benched by John Tortorella or having sort of disagreements and things that we knew about in the media. And that's a good sign, because he was doing that while playing for a coach that is meticulous defensively. So if he's unlocked a little more under whoever the next head coach is, and as we've seen over the last few games under Brad Shaw, like you said, 30 goal potential is definitely there, if not more.
One thing I really liked the other day was that morning skate. He was with Angelo Ricci, the skills coach, before the skate started, and he was in close and he was just working on getting the shot off real quick. And what he was doing was kind of just like following through with his upper body real quick. And he wasn't like using his whole body, all his legs, and getting real low to wind up in this powerful shot. It was more just boom. And he had enough strength, of course, to get the shot off in close, kind of like a quick little snapshot. And he was really good at it. And you could tell the reps were going through and through and through. And it was very obvious he was trying to get the shot off quick, because he knew in that area of the ice, in that slot area, you can't take all the time in the world. You have to get it all fast. And it was neat to see him work on it, even as he's going on this big time goal streak. He was still working on an area where he probably thought he could be better at. And I thought that was really eye opening for a young player, just 23.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, it's that adjustment to the time and space not being there.
Yeah.
And just, notice that from watching the Frozen Four, you watch Western Michigan and BU, and even before that with Penn State and in the Final Four and Denver. You watch the games, and it's almost like every forward on the ice, even defensemen, are trying that little drag move where you try to move the puck, drag the puck past the defenseman's stick and then shoot it. Everybody on the ice is trying it. But when you look at the NHL game, I don't know, there's probably 10 players that can pull that move off in the whole league.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in college is trying it. So I think there's such a drastic difference in hockey between collegiate, junior, and NHL, probably bigger than any of the other sports when you're talking about college basketball to basketball, college football to the NFL, and I'll say AAA or AA to Major League Baseball. I think the gap with hockey is way bigger, just because, like you said, it's the time, the space, and the speed, and it takes guys to. Well, the special ones come in ready to play, but even as we've seen, Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, these guys, they struggled. Connor McDavid struggled in his first year. So it's always a thing. And that's the part where you like what you see out of Foerster, because over the last couple of years, you're seeing the steps of him adjusting to that time and space deficiency when you compare it to the lower levels.
Absolutely. And one game left, Joe, as we mentioned, Thursday night in Buffalo against the Sabres. We'll have it on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Joe Fordyce will have Flyers pregame live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, postgame live to follow. And then, Joe, after that, cleanout day, which will be Friday and Saturday. A lot of players to talk to, Brad Shaw to talk to, and, of course, Danny Briere. Joe, what do you think will be some of the biggest questions to the GM? I think the main one is the head coaching search. How long might it take? Do they have some candidates already in mind? What are they exactly looking for? I think that will be the big topic for Denny Briere, but I'm curious as to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think it'll be the head coaching search. And is this the offseason where they put it in drive?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of cap space provided by the Farabee and Frost trade. Obviously the York situation is kind of in limbo and has to be rectified one way or the other. But is this the offseason where it goes from subtracting being the focus to adding being the focus with that cap space, and then the more anticipated cap space coming when Kevin Hayes' number comes off the books after next season and things like that? So does it start to put it in drive and kind of really put the pedal down on this rebuild? Because I think late in the season, it's gotten to that point where you're sensing the frustration with where this is. And look, I know at the beginning they told you 3-4 years, maybe even more. And there's a lot of that, but it's a lot different when you're in it and you see the progress. And I think we're in this every day, so we can dig into, there's more cap space, there's this, there's that, there's 7 picks in the first 2 rounds and all that sort of stuff. But the fan outside, the fan that's going to buy tickets, they look and they say, almost playoffs last year, nowhere close to playoffs this year. Is this thing going backwards? And, unfortunately too, and it caught me by surprise the other day when I came across Cutter Gauthier's numbers at the end of the season. He's really started to light it up, and now it looks like, okay, that trade's really going to hurt. Maybe it won't if Drysdale turns into what they hope. But again, there's something that needs to turn the feelings the other way, because I feel like they're going the wrong way right now, mainly due to the results on the ice. But it's not all it takes is a move or two to kind of, for Danny and Joan to tell everybody we're in this. We know the frustration's there. We're going forward here. And it feels like this is the first offseason where that's possible.
It probably goes without saying, this is the most pivotal offseason for Denny Briere and Keith Jones. The first one was making some of the obvious moves, the subtraction to start kind of getting the rebuild going in terms of assets and picks. Last offseason was coming off a year that they overachieved, and they people knew they weren't going to do a whole lot. This one is coming off a season where they disappointed. The rebuild didn't take the strides that some people thought they wanted it to. They fired a head coach. So now Briere and Jones are making this pivotal hire, the head coaching hire, the first one of their tenure, which is really critical to their rebuild. It might define their rebuild. And not to mention, as you said, Joe, the what's the next step? Do they have to get better significantly? Can they put this into a different gear? Because I'm not sure they can continue to bank on the let's be patient. We're drafting and developing. They're going to have some more assets in terms of picks, in terms of cap space. So how aggressive can they be? Will they be aggressive? What can they do really to kind of reinvigorate the fans a little bit? Uh, it's going to be a fascinating offseason, and I think just a crucial one. I know every offseason is important. We say that all the time, but this one, I think, for Briere and Jones is a real big one where they can kind of get the fans back on board and show them exactly what they're doing in the rebuild and where it's going. I don't think people have an exact grasp of the direction yet. Like, how many steps are they away? Can they be better quicker? Is it going to take a little more time? I think the offseason will paint a pretty clear picture of exactly where they're headed next season. Would you agree?
I agree because the thing is, you look around the league and Washington sort of rebuilt their team around Ovechkin, which didn't even seem like it was possible. They found a way in pretty quick fashion, and they weren't rock bottom terrible
Mhm.
while doing it. Um, you look at the Rangers back in the day, not back in the day, but like just when they signed Artemi Panarin. The thing with it is, I don't know that this team can propel itself forward without hunting for a star. And I'm thinking about somebody like Mitch Marner. Is Toronto going to keep him? Will Marner want to come here? All that sort of stuff. And I'm only throwing out a hypothetical because he's one of the biggest names out there. Um, that's where I think you show the fans, and it's not what the Flyers used to do, where you go out and get an aging big name that's probably past his prime. And I'm thinking of guys like Adam Oates or Vincent LeCavalier more recently. Like it, this is a guy in the prime of his career that led a team that had Austin Matthews on it in points. So that's what I think is a like I think you need to at least be in that mix, in the star hunting mix, to really propel this thing forward. Because when you look around the league, the teams they have stars, and some of them, yeah, they develop them, but not all of them. I mean, not look at like Dallas built their team through the draft. I think many would argue Dallas is one of the teams that has a chance to make a run at the Cup this year. And the reason they do is because they got Mikko Rantanen. The other guys are homegrown, but there has to be an element of adding from the outside, I think, to really get the team where it wants to be, unless you want to sit there and build for a decade, which no one has that time. It just doesn't work that way in pro sports.
Yeah, I think the Flyers still have a ton of roster work to do. And that's not just at the prospect level, but of course with their current roster as well. I don't think they have all the answers just yet. That's pretty obvious. But Joe, I think the real interesting thing and the thing about the Flyers position that I like is that I think they have a chance to take both avenues in terms of drafting and developing, but also, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
pursue
with 7 picks, you have assets where you can stockpile draft picks and possibly use it to go and
exactly.
get your sort of accelerator to your rebuild.
Yep.
And the other thing I will say, I think, is another big question for the GM is where the goaltending situation is
Yeah.
it's not good. Because I would argue what we've seen this season, you might have a 1A goalie in Sam Ersson, and I'm not sure the other two guys are NHL caliber, at least not at this point.
Yeah, goaltending, that's the one thing I really can't even put a finger on it as in terms of what they might do. I really don't know, because it's something that really needs to, I think, be addressed. I think they in-house believe Samuel Anderson can be a part of this, but exactly what is he? He's probably a 1B. Um, can they get back to something similar to what they had with Carter Hart and Anderson that seemed to work pretty well? A very good 1A and a very good 1B, but I can't quite figure out what they're going to do. That's a huge one, Joe. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's going to be a massive question for Briere. But I really do think they have the picks, the draft capital to not disregard the draft, but to make picks and also maybe potentially shop them to address the roster right now. And I think they've built that. And that's a credit to Briere for building up the draft picks and giving him a chance to attack both roads. And that I think is the most intriguing thing about the Flyers position this offseason. Not to mention the money coming off, some of it this offseason, and of course some more down the road where they can potentially be in position to spend a little bit too. So I think the Flyers are still in an advantageous position, Joe. Do you think so as well?
I would agree because of the assets and again the money coming off the cap. You
Yeah,
combine those things, and it's not something they've had since Danny and Jonesy took over. They haven't had assets and money at the same time. This is the first offseason for that. So now it's up to them what to do with it.
indeed. Plenty to follow here and plenty more to go. I know it's the last game of the season, but there's always the cleanout days. There's always something in the offseason. And right now, the Flyers need to hire a head coach. So we'll see when that happens. We'll have all this covered here on the Flyers Talk podcast. Joe Fordyce, thank you so much. As always, great to see you. Great to chat with you. A big thank you to Ben Berry, our podcast producer and guru. And Flyers fans, of course, as always, thank you so much for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen. And we can't wait to talk to you next time.